Facebook. Hello Facebook. Hello YouTube. Welcome back to my kitchen. It's a lovely sunny Friday here down in the West Country. I hope the sun is shining where you are. Now today I've got some really fabulous treats. I hope that everybody has got their yearbook 2 at the ready, because I'm cooking from this today as I said I would. Page 250. I am baking the ginger nutty slices. Don't panic if your book hasn't arrived yet. I know the post in some areas due to the COVID crisis has delayed some of the post, so we've actually popped the recipe for this onto lizearlewellbeing.com. There's a link, you'll find it on the link tree that I do in my Instagram, and also I think Betty, who is with us on Facebook today. Hello Betty, you'll probably pop a link for everybody to follow along just in case these books haven't arrived. I do sign everyone, by the way, that gets sent out, so well done all those who got theirs. If you have not got yours yet and you'd still like to get it, just hop onto the Liz Earle Wellbeing website. It's a book that we produce just here, just for ourselves, so it's not available on Amazon or in any stores. It's only from Liz Earle Wellbeing. So what I'm going to do today, just to give everybody the heads up of what's happening, is I'm going to do the baking. It's a really simple recipe. It's one of my favourites. It's literally, you just chuck it all in a bowl and then chuck it all in the oven. And then while it's baking, I'm going to be joined by a really special guest. I'm so excited. You probably will know Dr Larisa from this morning, an amazing obstetrician, gynecologist. And we're going to be having a chat about immunity, supporting the immune system. And just to say, for all of you eagle-eyed who were looking at your social media a little bit earlier, we have got a brand new ebook all about better ways to feel energized and to support the immune system. It's completely free, and you can get it from now, literally now this moment, until midnight on Monday, totally free of charge. Okay, so that's something after that. Do go and download it, because it's just such an interesting read. Obviously never more so important than now to be supporting our immune system. And I talk about lots of things in there, including vitamin C, and we're able to give it free for the next 4 days thanks to our friends at Ultrient C, Liposomal vitamin C. Really interesting. Oh my goodness, I'm looking forward to talking to Dr Larisa about all of this and so much more. Okay, so I do have my iPad here with questions, and I can already see that some have come in. Thank you very much, Betty, for forwarding those to me. So I will get back to that, and towards the end of this broadcast, look at some of the questions as well. But let's get going with some baking. Always like being in the kitchen on a Friday, doing a bit of baking for the weekend. Now, I have a confession to make. I had wanted to have one that I'd made earlier to show you, but unfortunately we ate most of it. So there's not a huge amount, there's only like a small bit left because it's so delicious. I was literally just munching it before I went live. But I'm going to show you how to do it because it's super easy. And don't worry if you haven't got all the ingredients, because you can play around with it, you can adjust. But the basis for it, it's a bit like a flapjack, only it's a slightly healthier version. So I've got my lovely oats. I've got organic oats in here, but any regular oats will do. As I say, the recipe I've got the links for, so don't worry about all the precise proportions for now. I'm going to cook mine in the Arga, but you can just use a normal oven. That's absolutely fine. You just need to preheat it to 190 degrees, which is 375 Fahrenheit, and gas mark 5, if I remember rightly. So I'm going to use lots of nuts because they're very nutritious. I've got some chopped almonds and some chopped hazelnuts. And I'm, first of all, before I start mixing, I'm just going to set aside a few for the topping. So I'm going to take out some almonds and take out some hazelnuts and just put them to one side. So into the oats go pretty much all the ingredients. It's just to stir it all up and bake it kind of recipe. So almonds, hazelnuts. I'm using dried cranberries. If you don't have them or can't get them, don't panic. You could use raisins, sultanas, any kind of dried fruit. But I like the dried cranberries because they get a little bit of a tang. I'm also using some pecans, and I'm pretty sure that the pecans go in whole, or maybe they get scattered on the top. You know, I think I'm going to keep these, I'm going to put some in here, okay, and I'm going to keep some for scattering on the top. I have already chopped some dates, so those are going in there. Oh, how organised. Makes a change. And then the spices. This is really sort of what makes it different. And I just love cooking with spices at this time of year. So I've got some ginger, which I've crushed. I actually just use a garlic crusher to crush my ginger, or you can just mince it up finely if you want to, or use a grater. Yeah, it's really good to, grated ginger is absolutely fine as well. So I'm popping that in there, and then I'm going to use some spices. I've got here cinnamon and a little bit of ground ginger. So I'm just going to pop that in there. A little bit of baking powder that also went into the oats, by the way. And then I've got some cinnamon. I quite like cinnamon, so I'm going to use extra. What does the recipe say? The recipe says 1 teaspoon. I probably use 2 teaspoons just because I like it so much. Okay, and then to mix it all together, you can use coconut oil or you can use butter, depending on your preference. I've melted some here. I actually ran out of coconut oil because I've been doing so much baking with it. So I've just got a little bit of melted butter. And I'm going to pop that all in there like that. And then mix it all up. This is just getting, just stir it up really, what more can I say? Just try and get everything coated, so it's coated in the butter or in the coconut oil. And you'll find that the dried fruits also give it that lovely little bit of stickiness. This is such a great thing, you know, if you're heading out for a walk, perhaps you're getting some fresh air, hopefully over the weekend, you know, you can take this with you as a little snack. Just head out with a thermos flask maybe and a bite to eat along the way as you're walking, or just have it, you know, as a healthy snack. You can have it if you've got kids heading to school, pop it in their lunch boxes, pop it in your work box. If you are working not from home, if you're travelling out and about, it's just really nice and sustaining. So that is now all mixed, and I'm going to pop it in a baking tray that I've lined with a bit of parchment. Really easy. That's all going in there like so. It's kind of like it makes a nice crumbly mixture. You press that down, and then on the top you can sprinkle the leftover nuts that you've set to one side. So I'm just going to press that all down in there. And the recipe says that you can also drizzle it with a little bit of honey. If you've got some runny honey, or maybe you've got a little bit of maple syrup. I don't know that it needs a huge amount, to be honest, but it's a bit of an indulgence, isn't it, just to make it a little bit sweeter. And of course it will help to caramelise the top of your tray bake. So I have, I don't know whether you can see that. I think on Instagram you can see it. I'm not sure if Facebook and YouTube you can quite see that, but hopefully you can see that all pressed down. So I will now scatter the nuts on the top. You could throw in some seeds as well if you fancied. You know, you can really adjust the recipe to suit your preference. So scattered those on top, and then I'm going to do a drizzle. Oh, can I get the top of my honey? Yes, it's a brand new pot. This is lovely local honey, so it's the real deal. I'll just take some of the runniness off and then just drizzle that. Lovely, look at that. Can't wait to bake it. Now this is going to bake in about 30 minutes or so, so we'll see. Might have a chance to take it out and show you. If not, I will pop a picture on my Instagram later. And if you bake it as well, please share. Don't forget to tag me. I'd love to see. And then I can repost on my stories as well. So that's going into the oven. There we go. Don't let me forget to take it out, will you? I can see a couple of comments about my top. This is an Asquith one. I was in the gym earlier, you might have seen on my stories. We do still have the discount code Liz Loves on Asquith, and I love it. It's bamboo and it's a bat wing. So just enter Liz Loves all in capitals, and that will give you your discount on Asquith London. I think there is address. Asquith London. If ever you can't find anything, just head to lizearlewellbeing.com, because everything that I talk about is there if we haven't put the link up. We do try and be efficient and pop our links up as well. Now, I am so delighted to be splitting my screen again. I'm very sorry for those watching on Facebook and YouTube. You will be able to hear Dr. Larissa, but you won't be able to see her. If you want to see her, then you have to head over to Instagram. And I'm going to click on my Instagram now and just see whether she has requested to join me. No, not yet. So if you are watching Dr. Larissa, which I hope you are, there we go. add. Let's see, waiting. It's always the exciting bit. Exciting / nerve-wracking. Hello! And it's worked. Oh my goodness. It's so nice to see you.
Fabulous when it works, isn't it? Any sort of problems with pictures. I've had so many recently, so I'm just keeping my fingers crossed.
Same. I'm just going to tip my phone up.
You're making, by the way. I'm already sort of smelling it in my mind. It just looks so delicious.
I love, there's something about tray bakes. They're just so easy, aren't they? And just so satisfying. I love it. You just shove it all in one thing and mix it up, and it's like magic, isn't it? Out of the oven comes something delicious.
Completely. I totally love that because I literally have no time like you. So whatever I can literally just shove in the oven and pile on top of the other. Brilliant. Get all my nutrients from that. So thank you for showing us how to make it. I'm definitely going to do that this weekend, actually.
Oh, bless your heart. You'll find the recipe on the website if you haven't got the book, so no worries at all. Now, I know you, obviously, from this morning, because you're a fellow contributor.
Actually, interestingly, have never really crossed on there, because obviously that's how I know you, but I've been a fan of yours since forever, Liz. I mean, this is such a huge honor, and I know my mum is listening right now as well, and she's just over the moon when I told her I was doing a live with you.
That's so exciting. What's your mum's name?
My mum's name is Narcissa.
Narcissa, what a beautiful name. Hello, Narcissa. Very nice to be with you as well.
You literally made her now. She'll be forever grateful. Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming on, because you are, not only a TV star and all of that, but you are a frontline worker, NHS doctor. How is it at the moment? How's your life?
Do you know what? Well, so the first thing, I'm very much a doctor. That is my day job. I'm full-time on there with the NHS, and though I was working on the front line in the red zone over 2 months in the first wave, I am not part of that anymore. Thankfully, part of the reason for that is also that the caseload at the moment is not quite as bad as we saw. Now, I know that's different between various different hospitals.
Let's hope it stays that way.
We were really badly affected in that first wave. I spoke a lot about that with the media at the time as well, and did a lot of updates on my stories. And I have to say, in all my experience and training as a doctor, I've never ever seen anything like it. It was so distressing to see so many people really ill, attached to ventilators, attached to life support, and really feeling as if you couldn't make as big a difference as you hope you would as a doctor. So mentally, I am still processing a lot of that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And that will take me a long time to do, but I was just grateful I got to be a part of it, got to make some difference on some level, and that my training to date stood me in good stead alongside working with the most, I have to say, amazing colleagues. They do the most fabulous job in intensive care. I have huge amounts of respect. And we're all still in touch, a lot of us, and still message and text, and I just love them all to bits. So I really couldn't have done any of that without them. And they just a huge shout out right now to anyone who works in intensive care, and anyone who is on that front line in the second wave. My biggest respect goes out to you. Yeah,
massive. And of course, this is really relevant to what we're talking about today, because everything that we need to be really focusing on in terms of our well-being is how to keep ourselves well, how to stay well, specifically and also more broadly. And I've been really fascinated learning more about how our immune system works, because this is our internal powerhouse, isn't it, that's going to help keep us well and help keep us out of intensive care, no matter what we might catch either now or in the future. It is all about keeping our immune system strong. And I know that you're also a fan, as I am, of some of the nutrients that have been shown to be really helpful. And I recorded for this week, actually, my Friday 5 podcast with Dr Levy, who is somebody that you might know, who talks a lot about liposomal vitamin C.
Yeah, he's so brilliant, isn't he? I mean, he's such a powerhouse. And,
really.
I've been fortunate enough to listen to him speak live. Oh, sorry, someone just trying to call me now. Typical. And I was so impressed by what he had to say about it, and the importance of vitamin C, because I think most of us realise that vitamin C is a major antioxidant, and is hugely important when it comes to immunity, because of the fact it controls all these baddies called free radicals that we naturally produce in our bodies. And I was just so impressed when I listened to him speak about learning more on the role of vitamin C and how it's involved and its different absorption rates, and actually the fact that we don't really produce vitamin C, so therefore it's a supplement that we should all really be on.
That's the really interesting thing, isn't it? It's it's a bit like vitamin D and the government guidelines saying we should all be supplementing with vitamin D, and we know that people with higher levels of vitamin D are less likely to suffer the more severe effects of COVID. And vitamin C, it's almost like this little Cinderella nutrient that we kind of, vitamin C, it helps you, with the severity of a cold or whatever. But it is the most extraordinary nutrient. And in fact, I've got here, because Dr. Levy sent me his book, Primal Panacea, which is...
Yes, I've got that too.
It's extraordinary. I mean, if you want to know more about vitamin C. And I remember years ago when I first started writing about well-being, looking into people like Professor Linus Pauling, who was the Nobel Prize winner. And he was really kind of ridiculed in his early years for talking about what they called megadoses, really high doses of vitamin C. And yet talking to Dr. Levy as well, it seems that we need these big doses. That's an extraordinary thing.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Levy says there isn't really a limit as to how much you take. It's a bit like asking the question of how much organic food do you eat, and you can't really overconsume. And most of us, are chronically deficient in so many of these nutrients. And, just going back to your point about COVID and, what I was seeing as well, that I was reading a lot of papers coming out at the time, and we as doctors were so eager to learn about what we could do to help improve people's well-being. And without exception, I was fascinated by sort of detecting people's vitamin D levels, because I had read, like you, that vitamin D had this really important role to do with the ACE receptor. So we know that COVID causes problems because of the effect it has on immunity. So what it does is it sets off a cytokine storm, which is when your body produces lots and lots of inflammatory mediators and hormones that can be very damaging in excessive amounts. Right. But the other way that COVID really mainly led to fatalities was the way that it seemed to have some sort of an effect on our vasculature and our metabolism. And one of the ways we think that it might have done that is through something called the ACE receptor, which is a really important receptor when it comes to blood pressure regulation and control. Right. So studies had gone on to show that vitamin D has an interaction with this receptor as well, and could potentially displace or prevent COVID from having the effect that it was trying to have. So I became completely fascinated by checking people's vitamin D levels in ICU, and without exception, I found that everyone who was there was not just deficient, but massively deficient in vitamin D.
This is just staggering. Isn't it? This is staggering. I mean, why is the mainstream media not just singing this from the rooftops?
So the thing is, exactly. I mean, we were all holding Zoom meetings with each other as doctors during that time and trying to kind of convey as much information to one another as we could. And we had Zoom meetings with people in Italy and Spain who'd gone through this crisis before, so they were feeding a lot of stuff to us. And of course, none of this is yet proven because it takes time to do that. And all we
but if you're seeing it, if you're seeing it clinically in intensive care where you're working, I mean, that's the most relevant, isn't it? That's on the ground.
It's not to say that vitamin D deficiency goes on to cause or give rise to COVID. Absolutely not. That's not what we're saying.
Just makes you more vulnerable.
Exactly that it increases people's vulnerability potentially to this disease, where it could go on and have a more severe effect. So I started putting everyone, alongside my boss. I convinced him into it to give everyone.
We've got to keep you guys well. You've got to stay well so you can look after everybody else.
Well, in all honesty, Liz, the thing is that, when I went into that So I knew I was going to be massively exposed to COVID. Yes, thank goodness we had the PPE and we were probably amongst the best protected in the hospital. But at the same time, the viral load was considerable because it was all around us.
Yeah.
And I knew I, had a real responsibility to keep myself fit and healthy through doing all sorts of different things, which I'm sure we'll get on to talking about because it forms part of our immune boosting response. And one of the main things I did was absolutely get myself on vitamin D and C every single day without fail. And we're going to talk about Ultra and why that's one that both of us favour. But yeah, it was really important for me to know that I was going to give myself the best possible chance of getting through this, and even if I got COVID, that I was going to be okay and be able to battle through that. So it played a huge role in my life, and really what I was trying to do was convey the same thing to all of these patients through the learning that I was doing. And interestingly, when we talk about vitamin C, as you say, it is a bit of a Cinderella because it's almost dismissed as this, well, everyone knows we should be on vitamin C, and most of us to some extent consume it in one format or another, but we don't really truly understand how effective this vitamin can be. And again, lots of studies were done in Spain where they were giving patients intravenous vitamin C to try and help them through COVID in intensive care, and they found some amazing results. We haven't done those studies in the UK, so we're waiting to see whether that is something that people should be put on, but I'm very tempted to believe that vitamin C certainly has a really, really important role when it comes to
now, talking about vitamin C, I think I started looking at vitamin C in the early days, and a lot of the studies were using intravenous vitamin C, so going, straight into your bloodstream through a drip, which is, fine in a hospital environment, obviously not something that we can do at home. But then I was really looking at the liposomal vitamin C. And this is really interesting, isn't it? So it's about the delivery system. And Dr. Levy talks about this actually, because yes, you can take vitamin C, tablets or powders or whatever, and that's all good. But what Ultrient do is they create these liposomal packages, and I've actually got some here just to show. Have you got? Oh, you've got yours. Brilliant. Okay, should.
I'm all ready to take it.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, let's go then. Let's do it. Let's do it together, shall we?
Let's do it.
So I am going to pop just to show you what it looks like. If you've not seen this before, it looks a bit like sort of orange sludge. There's probably a much better word for it, but it's like a little sort of bit of jelly, really. Oh, you've got yours there as well. Brilliant. Okay, I haven't got my water yet. Let me pop some in a bit of water, and then you.
These really gorgeous shot glasses as well, courtesy of Ultrient too. But
brilliant.
It does look
Yeah. I've got mine as well, and then. Well, I don't know. Should I not mix it? Shall I just knock it back without mixing it?
I leave it like this, and the reason is that it actually doesn't taste very nice if you.
Okay, I actually quite like it.
Well, each to their own. It's like Marmite, isn't it? Some people might love it. My mum mixed it up when I gave it to her, and she said, "Oh God, what's that?" And I said, "Well, no, you're just supposed to down it."
Just supposed to down it. Okay, all right. Are we going to down it together?
We're going to down it together.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. Bottoms up.
3, 2, 1. Let's do it.
No, it tastes okay. It tastes okay to me. It tastes a bit like.
I haven't really tasted it because it's just gone down.
Okay, you just swallowed it. Okay, so no, I had a bit of a.
Really like the taste or not, but you're still getting all the goodness out of it.
Yeah. So why do you take this then? I mean, why do you like the liposomal version? I mean, presumably as a doctor, you've looked at this. You've studied the different ways that we can have vitamin C.
Yeah, and I looked at the research that Ultrient had done as well, and when I came across this, essentially, what I really like about it is, obviously, I'll confess, not the taste, but that I love the way that it's delivered. So the fact that it is in this liposome, and when we talk about liposomes, they're really like little beads of fat that are dotted around a water-soluble molecule. So it's very, very similar to what we find in our cell membranes.
Right.
And so the fact that the way that you take this vitamin is so compatible with cell membranes means that it gets directly into the cell. So when have an intravenous infusion, what you're doing is you're trying to bypass essentially the digestive system and inject directly into the bloodstream. But obviously, as you say, that is not practical for most people. It's very invasive and it costs a huge amount of money.
It's very expensive,
Really expensive. So it's just not practical. But if you can take something every day, like this little sachet, which essentially gets directly to your cells, then that's just the craziest thing ever, really, isn't it? So what it does is it means that any of it which does go through the digestive system and the small intestine will still be absorbed, but you only have a finite amount of receptors there. So whereas normally if you take a powder or something else, those receptors will get oversaturated, they won't be able to absorb all of that vitamin C. With this, anything that isn't absorbed through the small intestine just goes straight into the bloodstream and is absorbed directly by the cells.
Wow, that is such a good explanation. Nobody, I have to say, has ever explained it to me so clearly and so well as to why these liposomal formulations, and I'm seeing more of them, and I mean, I get sent a load of stuff and I talk about different supplements here, and some of them are liposomal and they're more expensive. So I'm thinking, is that just a kind of a marketing thing? You know, does it really matter? Surely a vitamin is a vitamin, it doesn't really matter. But what you're saying is a liposomal vitamin, where it's encapsulated in this way, isn't broken down by the digestive system. It goes straight into the bloodstream like an IV drip.
Basically, it transfers directly into the cell, but the other reason, so basically it can get through that cell membrane. But the other thing why I really love it as well, and this is really cutting edge, and it's something I'm really into. So the role of the cell membrane, again, the coating of the cell used to be considered very much a Cinderella thing. You know, we kind of knew, well, it had this protective barrier on cells and it, conferred some benefit, but no one really understood the role of the cell membrane. But now there's huge amounts of research looking at the fact that cell membranes are actually one of the most important things in terms of our health. And I talk a lot in my work and stuff that I put out there about this role of epigenetics and the outside environment communicating with the inside environment, which is our genes. And the cell membranes, it's looking like they have a really big part of this. We don't quite fully understand it yet, but they're part of a much bigger overall matrix that dictates our well-being. So the great thing about this vitamin is that if it can penetrate cell membranes, it can also get into the cell membrane, and it could potentially release its antioxidant effect within that membrane, i.e. making the cell membrane much more efficient and better at signaling with other cells and communicating with other organs and controlling things like hormones. So this is the thing that really blows my mind, and that's what I love about it.
Really interesting. I'm getting lots of questions here, and I'm sorry on Instagram, you're finding me quite quiet. I think it's because the microphone is being very much directed at Larissa here, so I've tried turning it up, and it's no, you're fine. You're far more fascinating to listen to. So just talking about levels. How much vitamin C do you think we should be taking, and vitamin D, and do we need to take magnesium as well to help it along the way?
Yeah, great question. So with vitamin C, as Dr. Levy does say, and I probably agree with him on this, in that there really isn't a huge limit, because most of us are very unlikely to overdose on this vitamin. Most of us are deficient. So, what's normally recommended is about, 200 milligrams or so. But actually, if you think about it, that's a really low amount, just because we don't really produce it. And most of us are, as I keep going back to, deficient if we got tested. So actually, the Altrian sachet has 1,000 milligrams, which is 1 gram, essentially.
1 gram, yeah.
Now, you can have more. So, for example, a couple of people who follow me here might know I've recently been through a car accident and a huge amount of stress with that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I've been recovering at home. I'm still at home recovering. And one of the things I found when I went for my checkup and I got my treatment was that I had my immunity looked at. I had everything. I mean, we need to do another live on this, because some of the stuff I discovered was just dumbfounding, literally, and I had everything looked at. And one of the things that came up was that my immunity was fairly low, and I wasn't surprised, because I'd taken a really big stressful hit with the car accident, but I knew I was chronically quite stressed as well.
Sure.
With my job and everything that's been going on with COVID. So I am actually taking this a couple of times a day. You know, you can keep a sachet in your bag. So when you're at work, you can have it. You can have another one in the evening. So
just to say,
three times a day if you want to.
Just before we get on to the other vitamins, we do have a Liz Loves code on this, by the way. I know lots of people are already going, oh my goodness, I need to go and get some. So I'll mention that at the end, but just so that you do know that there is a discount available.
It's great you've got the code, because it really does help. You know,
it massively helps.
I often say, you know, it is, I guess, a more expensive supplement.
Yeah, but if it's going to do a job like that, I mean, comparing it to intravenous vitamin C, and, you know, as I always say, you know, what price health? You know, what price? I mean, health is wealth, isn't it? Yeah. And, you know, you look at some of the wealthiest people in the world, you know, I always think about Steve Jobs, for example, you know, who died of pancreatic cancer, and, you know, he was one of the wealthiest people in the entire world, you know, founder of Apple. I mean, for heaven's sake, it just doesn't get any bigger or richer than that. And at the end of the day, it doesn't do you any good. So, you know, we have to really invest in all sorts of ways. And it's not always expensive, you know, invest in things like sleep, which is free, or, you know, breathing properly, you know, again, which is free. So, you know, if we can add in, and that's, I mean, my community here know that's what I talk about all the time, little add-ins that actually can make a big difference. So in terms of then adding in the vitamin D as a supplement and magnesium?
So Ultra, as far as I know, doesn't do a vitamin D yet. I'm sure they'll probably get on to doing that. The way I take vitamin D is as a spray, so I actually absorb it under my tongue or on my tongue, and that's the best way to take that. And I would say, especially during COVID, again, most of us are going to be deficient at this time of year, especially because, as many people know, we make vitamin D in our skin as a result of absorbing sunlight from outside, and we don't have a huge amount of that anyway in this country, but in particular during winter. So most of us will need supplementing, but especially because we spoke about the role of vitamin D with COVID, I would recommend most people take 1,000 units a day during lockdown, but you can actually increase that to 2,000 units if you are deficient, or, you know, if you have a health condition.
I actually take 3. I take 3,000, and I like the sprays. I either use a spray, or I've got a new one from Life Armor, which is drops. But, you know, I think getting that liquid, you know, direct under the tongue, again, it's all the delivery system, isn't it? It's making it more efficient.
Yes, exactly. And actually, you know, the research studies and the ones I've been reading around COVID recommend 2,000 units to people as well. So yeah, you're doing well taking 3. You're already above that. So yeah, it's a really, really important one. I would say vitamin C and vitamin D are probably your most important vitamins. Whenever people come to me and ask me what are the main vitamins I should be on, I always say those 2, just because we all really need them. But yeah, the other one, and I've got it here, is the magnesium. So Altrium does do a liposomal magnesium. Now, this is really important for me at the moment because of the fact I mentioned I've been through quite a lot of acute and chronic stress. So magnesium is important, as you will know, in terms of sort of regulating our nervous system and calming our nervous system down and calming that stress response, that fight or flight response, which is a huge part of our immunity and can really detrimentally affect our immunity. So chronic amounts of stress and, you know, where we pounded with lots of different things. I mean, who hasn't been this year, quite honestly?
Absolutely. And also helping with sleep. I find magnesium is really helping. Both me and my daughters actually are taking lots of magnesium at the moment to help with sleep.
Well, I agree with that because I take mine just before bedtime, actually. And again, it's the time when our nervous system resets. And also it's the time when our immune system does a lot of its work. And I know you talk a lot about the importance of stress, and I do too, to any couples that want to get pregnant, because it is such a huge part of our well-being, but we completely underrate it. And myself included, you know, when I do crazy work hours and I just don't get enough sleep, I'm so aware of it, and I'm so aware that my health is impacted as a result.
Yeah, very much so. Now, your work is working as an obstetrician. So you're working, a gynecologist, so you're working with a lot of pregnant ladies. How has that been during COVID? You know, have you had to have deliveries in, you know, in labour wards with only the mum there and no partners allowed? And what's that like?
Yeah, it's been hard from that respect. I mean, things are getting getting better.
Good.
And I think, Boris Johnson, even in his recent speech, I was listening out when he said, and he mentioned pregnant women, and said he was going to try and roll out a quick test to try and encourage more partners to be present and be there, because he realises this is such a huge deal.
I couldn't imagine. I mean, I've had 5 kids, and, I seriously needed to squeeze somebody's hand. Preferably somebody, related to me. And shout at somebody.
The midwives are fabulous. The midwives and the doulas, they're amazing with the jobs that they do, and they very regularly squeeze people's hands over all of this. And I often try to as well when I'm involved with the deliveries. But it is really hard, because you absolutely need an advocate there, and you need someone who's just calming you down through the whole process. Sure. It's such an anxious time, whether you're a first-time mum or not, at the best of times. And to not have someone there by your side, it's really, really hard. So we are very conscious of it. And what has been introduced is certainly when you are in labour, in the active process of labour, your partner can absolutely be there. Where the question mark is the phase before that. And then where hospitals have different limits and rules. Most of them have visiting hours where partners, let's say you need an induction, which can sometimes take a couple of days, then partners are allowed to visit during certain hours to be there with you. But at the moment, a lot of it is also done through FaceTime and things like this. And one of the benefits that I didn't quite expect, and I was talking to one of my midwives about it the other day, is the fact that what's been really lovely is that the women have now made friends with each other on a ward as a result. So whereas they wouldn't necessarily communicate as much, they've become each other's advocates in all of this. Yeah. And it's just a really lovely atmosphere on the antenatal ward and postnatal ward as a result.
It must be such a special job. I mean, just, bringing another human being into the world and doing that, on a daily basis. How many deliveries would you normally do in a week? How many babies would you deliver?
We do about, it differs and it varies, and we always joke that babies seem to come at night, more than the
obviously.
Day. When we're most tired and we don't want to be up. But I'd say, we probably do about, in a year, sort of 6,000 to 8,000 deliveries. So yeah.
You are not delivering 8,000 people a year.
I wouldn't get any sleep with that. No, it's a collective team effort.
Right.
We
okay.
have, brilliant midwives who do all of the normal natural deliveries, and we've got an amazing set of doctors as well who do the more complicated deliveries, shall we say, and the cesarean. So we are all there to help. And whilst we're talking about this, I just want to say to all the women out there that this is a really scary time. It's a really anxious time. And what is really, really important is that women realise, and their partners, that they absolutely should come in if they are worried about anything.
Yeah. Good message.
You need to get regular appointments. We're still open for you. We're still there for you. And some of the worst stories I heard through lockdown was women were miscarrying on their own at home. They didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
They're suffering in silence. They weren't coming in with reduced fetal movements because they were worried that they might get infected or that there might be a burden on the NHS. And sadly, as a result, we've recently seen there was a recent report put out there to suggest that stillbirth.
Oh, my tray bake. Someone's just reminded me on Instagram about my tray bake. Sorry, carry on.
No. So I just want to say to everyone, please, if you are pregnant, or actually if you're not, if you're just worried about anything, please make sure that you come into hospital, you contact your midwife, you contact a nurse, you contact a doctor, you contact whoever you need to, because we are still very much working through this lockdown, and we're really keen to let people know about that. So it's not burnt hazard, because I do not want to be responsible for a burnt.
No. I've got a couple more minutes. It's all right. Thank you very much, team. Thank you, because I'm notorious for leaving things in here and getting so carried away with fascinating discussions that then it's like I get this little burnt crisp.
The good thing about all of this is we're going to be able to see the tray bake now, right?
Well, you are, absolutely. Now, just before we finish up, though, I'd love to get your take on other ways that we can better support our immune system, because it is just so important. What's your kind of checklist that we should all be doing right now?
Yeah, well, my checklist really is the things that I I genuinely do in my own life and have been doing to try and help and support myself. And I tell all of my patients, whether they're trying to get pregnant or are pregnant or are not, this applies to everyone.
Yeah.
So I would say, we've touched on this, diet is really important. So how you eat and what you eat. This is a huge subject, and, maybe we can talk about
we'll
this.
have to revisit,
Exactly. But, you talk a lot about this. It's about eating as organically and as cleanly as you can, wholesome, nutritious food that isn't processed, where the sugar content is low.
Yeah.
You're reducing the amount of alcohol and sugar, both which can be pro-inflammatory. And it doesn't matter how many supplements you take, if you have a poor and rubbish diet,
it's not going to make up. It's exactly. You can't eat a load of processed foods and then think, oh, I'm just going to have some lovely vitamin C to make up for it. Doesn't work, does it? Sadly.
Yeah, and
you've got to do the two together.
People don't realise that all these things work in tandem. So you've got to be doing all of these things together to try and get the maximum efficiency and optimal benefit. So diet is huge and important. Drinking lots of water as well to keep your immune system and toxins flushed out. Exercising, so getting out into fresh air, going forward, we're allowed to do that in lockdown.
Totally.
We're allowed to do it because it's really important. It keeps the blood circulating, and again, your immune system working well and flushing out the toxins. Again, something close to your heart and my heart too, toxin-free living. So trying to eliminate lots of toxins around your house, in your makeup products, in anything that you're using, because these toxins can all have lots and lots of effects that you're not necessarily told about, and I think it's really, really important you just try and stay as clean, natural as you can, and make some of your products as well, like cleaning products. They're super easy to do, and actually what's really great is so many supermarkets now have a natural range because it's really taken off.
I mean, even things in our homes, and I've got a piece online about this actually, so maybe Betty, you can pop it up for the link on Facebook, about making things at home, making loo cleaners, using bicarbonate soda, using white vinegar, for example. White spirit vinegar just cleans so much. It's a really efficient, really economical way of cleaning.
And the last one I'd add to this, really, the last major one is stress management and stress relief. And you've already spoken about the importance to sleep, which is a really important way of managing stress. But again, it's something very close to my heart at the moment because I'm experiencing so much of it. And I think that, trying to do whatever you can to try and control, I'll keep talking.
You keep talking.
Control the stress. So, trying to essentially be meditation, mindfulness where you can. Oh my gosh.
Just in time. It was just beginning to catch. Oh, I'll let that cool for a moment before cutting it.
We've seen that. You can do to try and manage your stress, and that will be different for everyone. I personally love yoga, so I will do that every day.
Sorry, what will you do every day? Yoga. Yeah, I've started doing it. I have to say, I got out of the habit. I was doing it in the first lockdown, and I actually did a little bit yesterday. I like the Down Dog app. I don't know whether you've seen that.
Yeah.
Really good.
I've not seen that one. Look at it, so for anyone who's maybe new to it, hopefully it's something they can do. But it's just such a great way of keeping yourself active. And, the reason why stress is such an important thing to look at is because of the hypothalamo-pituitary axis. Without going into detail, because I really want to see that trade rate, but essentially, again, another example, essentially this axis has a huge effect on pretty much all of our organs, and I talk a lot about it in reproduction because of the way that stress can impact progesterone levels and lower those and potentially, interfere with fertility. But with stress and the fact it affects this axis and it affects our nervous system, essentially it can affect every single organ in our body and our immunity. So as I discovered when I went to see the chiro yesterday, she started talking to me about my nervous system. I started to see that actually what was going on here as a result of the car crash was actually having an impact on my immunity. No wonder it was low, and having an impact on so many other things that were going on. So everything is interlinked, everything is interrelated, and you have to do all of these things together. Yes, it is a commitment, but small steps at a time to see a benefit.
Brilliant.
And you will.
Larissa, we're going to have to leave it there, but please come back and join me another time. I know this has gone down so well. I can just see so many comments coming in, and we can obviously follow you. What's your handle on Instagram so that people can follow you?
At Dr Larisa Corda.
Great.
So please come along and follow any tips on it, because women's health is another subject that you are really into, and I know you do a lot of work with Meg Matthews, who's a friend of mine as well.
Yes, oh, say hi to Meg if you're talking to her. Love Meg.
I will, but it's been such a joy to do this with you.
Thank you.
And you know, I'm so grateful for the opportunity to help put, you know, these kinds of, any words of wisdom that can out
It's so nice to talk about this stuff, because this stuff is just not being talked about. You know, we're just hearing endless, you know, statistics and then fights over statistics and bad news, and it's actually, yes, we know all that, but what can we do? You know, let's empower ourselves to actually be doing something positive. So thank you.
Liz, you do an incredible job, by the way, yourself. You do these Instagram lives so regularly, so frequently. You put so much joy out into the world. And,
thank you.
I'm personally so grateful to you for that. I know my mum is completely clear. One of the people she follows on Instagram. She doesn't follow a lot of me and you and maybe a few others.
Well, special wave to your mum too.
You help bring so much happiness during this very dark time. So thank you for everything that you are doing.
Well, bless you for saying thank you. You stay well. Look after yourself, and we'll talk again.
Thank you. I will.
Lots of love. Thanks for being with me.
Bye.
Bye.
Love to you. Bye.
Oh, wasn't that great? Wasn't that great? So much there to talk about. And I think the key message here is, let's think about our immune system. If you've never thought about it before, this is obviously a perfect time, because as I said earlier, if you missed it right at the beginning, I've got a brand new ebook and it's completely free. Okay, it's free. There are literally no strings attached, zero strings, no strings. There's no puppetry going on here, nothing. And it's free until midnight on Monday. So if you're watching this live, you've basically got 4 days. Just go to lizearlewellbeing.com and you download it. And it is seriously good. It's really good. So I can see all the questions that have been coming in about, you know, how vitamin C works, what we should be taking, the types that we should be taking, what else we can be doing. I've also, because it's an e-guide and it's digital, it means it's got links in it, which is really great. So you can read it on your phone or your tablet or your iPad or whatever. And, you know, you can tap links to all sorts of things. So there's a whole world out there. So please go and grab it. If you are watching this on catch up and we've gone past midnight on Monday, don't despair, because you can buy it as a regular download on my website. It'll be $4.99 when it goes on general sale. But I'm just so thrilled. And my team, I have to say, massive hearts, shout out, big love, especially to Ellie Smith, my senior health writer, who helped write this and design it and do everything. I mean, she's an amazing writer, an amazing woman. So hearts, Ellie, especially to you. And it is just, it's so fascinating, and I learned a lot through the whole process of it. And I think the timing now, obviously we had no idea when we were planning it, because I knew that it was really important to keep talking about the immune system, but I hadn't realised that we'd be launching it basically right at the beginning of a next national lockdown. I mean, how timely. And when we did my gut guide, which is the guide to the flatter, happier tum, which is all about getting better gut health and, you know, trimming down those lockdown pounds, all of that. And we did that. We gave that away in July during the first lockdown. We actually gave away just over £70,000 worth of e-guides to help during the first lockdown. So that was an amazing thing. And that was with our friends with Bimuno, who were helping us with that. And here, of course, we've got our friends at Altriant. And it's a genuinely good supplement, okay? I'm not being paid to say that. It's genuinely a good supplement. So thank you very much to everybody who has joined in that conversation. And I'm sure that these conversations will go on and on. Now, I'm going to show you my tray bake, if I can pick it up. Still a little bit too hot to slice, but there we go. I wish you could smell it, because it smells really good. And what I like about these recipes is that they do, as you'll see from my Instagram, they do turn out how they look in the book. So there you go. So if you want the book, that one is Liz Earle Wellbeing. It's yearbook 2, but you'll also find the recipe free on the website. Talking about free things, I hope you're all signed up to the newsletter. It comes out every Friday. We've just finished today's newsletter. It'll be winging its way into your inbox, again, completely free. There's no charge. We don't spam you. We don't sell your data or anything. We just pack it full of good things. And we've really tried to make this one especially helpful for this particular time that we're going through in society. A couple of questions about the book that was mentioned, Primal Panacea. That's the book by Dr. Levy. He is on my podcast today. So if you've got your podcast app, or if you want to go to Liz Earle Wellbeing and download it, he is on my Friday 5. I recorded a special edition of the Friday 5 because I knew that I'd be talking to Dr. Larissa today and that we would be focusing on immunity. So do take a listen. Completely fascinating. Honestly, if you are something of a supplement skeptic, you need to listen to this because it's very compelling what he says about vitamin C in particular. Okay, so few quick questions before I go. I'm sorry we're running over a bit, but it's just been such a fascinating day. Should we be taking vitamin K? Really interesting. That's from Sheepridge via Instagram. I take it. And I take my vitamin D with vitamin K. Vitamin K is really good for blood clotting and for bone health. You can find it in green leafy vegetables. So if you're eating lots and lots of brassicas and dark green leafy cabbage and that kind of thing, it does need fat to absorb it. So what I do is if I'm cooking greens like Swiss chard or brassicas or, you know, Brussels sprouts even, they're coming into season. I love a Brussels sprout. Who loves Brussels sprouts? It's kind of, they're another Marmitey thing, aren't they? Love them or hate them. I love them. And they've got really interesting compounds in them as well. They've been shown to be able to be cancer protective and all sorts. But put a little bit of extra virgin olive oil on your dark leafy greens because that will mean that you can absorb more of the vitamin K from that. Lynn says, hi Liz, do you work out 3 times a week or is it more? Well, it just depends. I try and do something every day. So yesterday I wasn't particularly active, so I just did like 10-15 minutes of yoga. I use the Down Dog app. I love it. It's really good. The day before I went out for a run. I was in London, so I went out with Michael and we just did, we probably did about, I don't know, 3 miles maybe. And because I'm not sure kind of when I'm going to go out running with him again. This morning I was doing my weights. So I did my strength training. And I'm hoping to do an Instagram live actually with Zana Morris, who I know has been a real hit, literally, hit, because she talks about high intensity training hit. And her brand, her nutrient brand is called Strong, very appropriate, Strong Nutrients. And it'd be lovely to get her back actually. I know she's a big fan of things like magnesium as well. Okay, this is from Kerry on Instagram who says, hi, would you remind me of the magnesium and omega fish oil brands, please? That was something I talked about, I think, on Wednesday when I did my Instagram live with Lily. And I gave her a ticking off if you didn't see it, because she's not taking fish oils. And I said, what? Of course you've got to take your fish oils. Absolutely, you need your DHA, and for any vegans or veggies out there, please take your supplements, make sure it's an algae-based supplement because the flaxseed supplements don't get converted properly into DHA. So I use Newson Health, of course, Dr. Louise Newson, who else, who better for midlife women. And we do have a Liz Loves discount code. You'll find that. I think, Betty, maybe you can pop a link up for those. We get them from Emma Ellis Flint, who is a great nutritionist who's got her own website. And she is the one who supplies the Newson Health supplements. Dr. Louise doesn't do it. She's a practicing doctor, so she doesn't have a kind of commercial arm, but she has got, or helped to formulate these amazing supplements, which I think are really good. It's a very small range. You don't need to take a lot, but it's very targeted, and I just take 1 capsule a day of those, and we do have the Liz Love, so enjoy those. This was a nice comment here, actually. That was from Lowry on Instagram, and you obviously watched Lily and me on Wednesday, and you said, what a beautiful Insta, you bring such joy, the two of you together, love your close relationship. Wow. And yes, you could be sisters, but not quite twins. No, obviously she's my older sister, isn't she? I have to say, her new venture, Lily's new venture, oh my goodness, I'm so excited for her and to be talking about this in the future. I mentioned this on the live on Wednesday. So for those of you on Instagram, just check it out this weekend, okay? It's called cellreturn.uk. So cell as in skin cell, okay? CELL, cellreturn.uk. Completely fascinating. And you know me and evidence, really evidence-based. Beauty technology. I mean, this is the next generation, isn't it, really? You know, I think my work is done here because I'm just handing over to the next generation. Oh, I can see a beam of sunshine coming in. That's what it is on my face here. Beam of light. Okay, this was from JP on Instagram, who, this was about my podcast on HRT and the scare stories in the news. Saying, thank you for getting to the truth behind those clickbait HRT headlines. I think the press are so irresponsible for making such attention-grabbing statements. Fake news seems to be everywhere these days. A majority of journalists and broadcasters seem to think they are celebrities these days, and ego certainly seems to be put ahead of the truth too many times. So, if you have not listened to it and you are interested in evidence-based information, when the Telegraph published headlines this time last week, actually, it was last Friday, saying that a new study showed that the risks of HRT for breast cancer were higher than previously thought, I immediately jumped into action with a lot of other specialists and medics and contacted the researchers from Nottingham, where the study was done. And it was just infuriating because they said actually they showed that the modern transdermal estrogen, the risks are lower, not higher. And they'd sent out a press release saying that the risks were lower. But for some unknown reason, the press picked up that the risks were higher. So anyway, so I thought, right, below this, I'm going to invite this lead researcher, the author of the study, onto my podcast. I'll do a special. It's not the Wednesday, it's not the Friday 5. I was just so fired up. I said, right, come on team, let's do this, let's record this. And got hold of her and we recorded it over Zoom last weekend. And she basically was able to put the record straight, but of course not without so much damage being done. And I can't go there because time is running out, but we'll do another story on that. Actually, this is more of a success story. This is from Sam on Instagram, who just says, I just want to say thank you for your 2 digital books on HRT and menopause. They were totally fabulous. I took them to my doctor and I'm now just waiting for my HRT prescription. Big thank you for all your information. And that was from Sam on Instagram. Well, yeah, I mean, those downloads are still there if you're interested. There's one called The Truth About Healthy Menopause. No, I think it's just called Healthy Menopause. And the other one is The Truth About HRT. And that's a serious deep dive into that. So, yeah, do please. We've all got a bit more time, haven't we, possibly now during lockdown, or maybe not. Maybe you're a key worker, maybe you have less time. So anyway, if you would like something to read, then they are all online. Just to say that I have got last few subscription gifts for the magazine. Whoops, throwing it around here. This is the amazing little Veneffect lip plumping treatment. £68. Wow, precious stuff. You get that free with any subscription of the magazine, and you still get your free issue. You get 6 issues for the price of 5. This is the brand new one. Yay! I so love this. It's just full of joyful things and lots of good reads and good information. So I hope you love it. Is it too early? Tell me. I'm going to put a poll on my Instagram. Is it too early to start talking about Christmas? I don't think it is. But I mean, my family know I start kind of, writing my Christmas cards in September. So I'm a big Christmas fan. And I just think a lot of us these days are beginning to think a bit earlier about Christmas. And, come on, guys, we've had bonfire night. That was last night. Now the next thing, hopefully, to look forward to, even if it's just putting up a few decorations or having some time to write a few cards or just begin to think about, some of the nice treats that we might want to bake or make or freeze ahead of time. Or, we need to be doing things, don't we? What about Christmas puddings, Christmas cakes? Yeah, should we do that? I've got stuff online. I've even got an e-guide, actually, to a happier, well-being Christmas. Maybe we should start talking about this. No, it's not too early, says Caroline on Facebook. Excellent. Oh, I've already watched my first Christmas film. Excellent. Christmas, says Angela. Yes. Lots of Christmas tree emojis. Oh, thank you, Lisa. Loving my magazine. Always get excited when it arrives. I think most of you have hopefully had the magazine now, but I know some parts of the country the post is slow, so I'm apologising for that. You can get the digital version. Betty, do you want to pop a link on Facebook to Readly? Because Readly is a great place, and you can subscribe to any magazine. Well, once you subscribe to Readly, you get access to any magazine virtually in the world. I mean, it's a really, really good system. I've probably heard me here talk about it before. But they do have Liz Earle Wellbeing on Readly, and they also have back issues. So if you want to have, a back issue... Oh, a message from my mum. Mum, you can't message me during my lives because it comes up on my screen, but she's apologising because she's got to go. She's got to go somewhere. I didn't quite get the message of where she's got to go, but anyway, obviously something very important. Yes, Mum, you can catch up later, okay? It will be there for you. Just before I go, and I'm sorry, that's probably my cue, isn't it, to go? My goodness, I've been talking for more than an hour. What do I have to say very quickly? Don't forget to enter the competition to win one of these beautiful travel wraps. Look at this. Look at that colour. This is the one of mine. I love it. Look, it's double-sided. Isn't that beautiful? So, you might want to pop this on your Christmas list because they've given us a 10% off with Liz Loves. You can see I've got mine, so nobody can steal it. Apart from, of course, guess who? Lily Earle. Yes, the one person who might actually walk off with them, Lily Earle. And she says, no, it says Ellie. I thought it was mine. Really? Okay. Well, this one is mine. I'm just going to put that on the record. But we have a competition to win one. So beautiful. Like a big cosy hug. Absolutely love them. All you have to do is just click to enter. That's it. So, but you want to be in it to win it. So go to Liz Earle Wellbeing and click. And good luck. That is about it from me for today. Lots of chat going on. So nice to be with you all. Don't forget, get your free e-guide, okay? It's completely free, as I say, no strings attached. It's just a good read and enjoy it. Please read it over the weekend if you get a chance, and maybe we can chat some more on Monday about it and follow up. Do give me questions. You can leave questions obviously on Facebook. We will try and come back to as many as we can over the weekend. Obviously Instagram, you are always very vocal on comments, and I promise I will try and find a gap to get through all my comments and reply to as many as I can. I don't do direct message. It's just one too many things that I can't cope with, but I do really genuinely try and get through as many comments as I can. So thank you for that. I'm just sending you all lots of love. I hope that this has been a helpful hour of distraction from all the other noise that's going on at the moment in the world, locally and globally. But sending masses of hearts. Thank you for all the hearts that you're sending to me. I can see them all coming on the screen, and I'm sending you a lot back. Lots of love. Listen to the podcast today. It's really good, and I hope everybody has a lovely weekend. I'll see you Monday. Bye-bye.